Hello and welcome to this video by me, Lizzie Lamb from Woolly Lamb Crochet. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this lovely snowflake. Now, here in the world of crafting and crochet, we always love being able to make things that are festive. These are great because you can gift them to people, you can put them in Christmas cards, or you can add a loop and hang them on your tree. You could make a garland out of them, you could make a wreath out of them. They are really versatile and I love them. I've designed this little snowflake. And as you know, in real life, in reality, snowflakes are all individual. There are no two the same. So this one is kind of a mix of other ones I've seen along the way throughout my years crocheting, and I really like it. It looks really complicated, but it's not. It's 3 rounds. All of that bit is the last round, and it really doesn't take very long to make. So let's get started. You're going to need some 4-ply Mercer sized cotton. Now you could use double knit, acrylic, you could use any size wool and gauge up your hook. But I like the Mercer sized cotton because it's kind of got a kind of a coating on it. So when you stiffen it, as you can see, and I'll show you how to do that at the end, it really holds its shape. You can see all the stitches. It's really nicely defined, and that's great. So I'm using Sheepy's Katona because I love the stuff. It's a 4-ply Mercer sized cotton, as I said, and you're going to also need a 3mm hook. So first things first, we're going to make a magic ring. Now, magic rings are a bit Marmite. You either love them or hate them. I love a magic ring. To make a magic ring, you cross your yarn over your fingers, wrap it round, turn it towards you, and then pop it under your 3rd finger. Then going to take your hook, and with the point of the hook facing down, you're going to go under the first one, over the second one, twist it up and round, and then using the working end of your yarn that you left under your 3rd finger, you're going to make a chain. So there's a chain 1. Now your loop should look like this. You have working end of your yarn, and then you've got your tail and your loop, and you've got a chain 1. Now, when you work around a magic ring, you really need to make sure that you don't accidentally leave this tail hanging out to the back, because if you do, you're going to end up not being able to pull it, and then the magic won't happen. So this pattern starts with a chain 3 for round 1. I've already made one here, so I'm going to make 2 more chains. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and that's the first bit of our first round. I'm then going to make a treble into this ring. So yarn over into the ring, pick up my loop, pull it through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I'm then going to chain 1. Now, as you might be able to see on here, there's 12 trebles in that first round. So that's what we're going to make. So we're going to do a chain, and then we've got our treble. Sorry, pairs of trebles is what I meant. On there. So then we're going to do another treble. And then we're going to chain 1. So that's our pattern repeat. Our pattern repeat is to 2 trebles and chain 1, and we're going to do that 6 times. So that's 1, that's 2. So another treble and another treble. So that's a 3rd pair. And remember that the chain 1 is the end of that pattern repeat. So that's 3. Treble, treble, chain 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to do treble, treble, chain 1, treble, treble, chain 1. So it is easy to sometimes just get carried away and do too many. So let's have a pause. If you find, like here, you can see the bit that you've crocheted over, and it's making things, sometimes you get a right little loop sometimes. So just bunch it up and you can see what you've got. So we should have, now in this pattern, the chains count as a stitch. So this chain 3 here is acting like our first treble. So we've got treble, treble, chain 1, so that's 1, treble, treble, chain 2, so that's 2, treble, treble, chain 1, that's 3, treble, treble, chain 1, that's 4, treble, treble, chain 1, that's 5, and treble, treble, chain 1, that's 6. Then to close our round, we're going to pull on the end here and watch the magic happen. So you don't get a hole in the middle. I absolutely love a magic ring. Before you do your slip stitch, just make sure that that bit that you've pulled is to the back of your work, and then you're going to make a slip stitch into the third chain of that initial chain. Sometimes the first bit gets covered, so it's easy sometimes to work back. So there's your first full treble stitch, and that little V there is the one which is the third chain. In an ideal world, you want to be able to get both your hook under both bits of that V. It can be a little fiddly, but there we go. And slip stitch as a yarn over, pull through that chain and pull through the loop that was on your hook, and that's the end of round 1. Round 2, going to start with a chain 3, and then we're going to do a treble in the next treble. So that's your chain 3 that we've just done that new chain 3 for round 2 out of. That's your next treble stitch there. So we're going to put a treble in there, like so. Then we've reached our chain 1 space, our first chain 1 space. There should be 6 of those in between all of those pairs of trebles in round 1. And in that chain 1 space, we're going to make a treble, 2 chains and another treble. So into that chain 1 space, we make our treble stitch. We then do 2 chains, and then we do another treble stitch in that chain space. Okay, and then we're going to start our repeat. So our repeat is 2 trebles, so 1 in there, 1 in the next treble from round 1 there, and then in our chain 1 space we've got a treble, 2 chains and a treble. So that is our pattern repeat. The 2 trebles in the trebles of round 1, followed by a treble, 2 chain and a treble in that chain 1 space. So we're going to repeat that 4 more times. So treble, treble, and then in our chain 1 space, treble, 2 chains, treble. If you're having difficulty with your treble stitch or your chain stitch or a magic ring, then you'll also find on my YouTube tutorials for those. So please go ahead and pause this and have a look at that if you need a reminder of any of those basic stitches. We've reached our chain 1 again, our chain 1 space, should I say. 2 chains and a treble. Oh, I need a bit more yarn off there. And you can see it's starting to take a slightly hexagonal shape, and we're making this round here. Okay, so now I'm going to repeat that a couple more times. So we've got treble in there, treble in there, 2 chains. Oh no, hang on, it's easy to make a mistake. Got ahead of myself. Treble in the chain 1 space first. And the great thing about these is they should be symmetrical. So if you ever look at around and go, something's just not right and I can't work it out, go round, look at your pattern repeat, count your stitches, see where you've placed your stitches, and just double check, because it is really easy, like I just did then, to carry on with my 2 chains thinking I was in that chain 1 space already and I wasn't. Right, so we've got to there. So now for the last one, we're going to do our last repeat, treble in that treble, treble in that treble, and we've come back round. So there's our last chain 1 space. So we're going to do our treble in there, our chain 2, and then our last treble there. And it's useful to see, actually, when you look at this, you can see groups, 6 groups of 4 trebles on round 2. We start on the second one of that first or last, depending how you look at it, group. So when you make this last treble of this last corner, this last chain space here, it's actually the first of this group of 4, remembering that our chain 3 here acts like a treble. So to close our round, we're going to do a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of this initial chain 3. You can see it a bit more clearly here. So you've got 1, 2, 3. That's the V that belongs to this treble. So we are just going to go under there. Again, in an ideal world, try and get it under both bits of that V if you can. Yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. And that is the end of round 2. Told you this was quick. Right, so what you should have at the end of this is 24 trebles and 6 chain 2 spaces. Okay, always good to look at the stitch count at the end, have a quick count back, make sure you're on track. Right, next thing we're going to do is slip stitch. This is round 3. So we're going to slip stitch into the top of that next treble. And then in the next one, we're going to do DC. We're going to do a chain 1 first, and then we're going to do a double crochet into that treble there. Right, now to make this bit, this is chains, and they're like mini picots, I guess. So they're chains and then slip stitches, and you make 5 of those, and then you come back in and rejoin back into this chain 2 space, sorry. So let me show you how we do that. So the first thing we're going to do is do a double crochet into the chain 2 space. Then we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to slip stitch back into that first chain there. If you're not quite sure where it is, count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yarn over, pull through, pull through. I'm going to do the same again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch back into that first chain. Now to create this slightly larger point up here, we're going to do a chain 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to do a slip stitch back into that first one there. So you're almost ending up with like a little string of bunting almost that you're then going to re-anchor. 2, 3, 4, 5. And a slip stitch down in there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then a slip stitch down in there. So what you've got at this point is a little length of work, and you've got a chain 5 picot, a chain 5 picot, a chain 8 picot, and then 2 more chain 5 picots. And then to join that, to make it this snowflake shape, you're going to come back into your chain 2 space from round 2. Make sure you don't twist this, and we're going to make a double crochet in there. And that gives you that shape. Okay, and then to finish off the repeat, we are going to do 2 double crochets, so 1 in there and 1 in there. That, be aware that first treble, the top of that first treble might be hidden by that double crochet, okay? So make sure you are going into the top there of that treble and make a double crochet. I'm going to make another double crochet in there, and then we're going to make a little chain 4, and then we're going to do a double crochet and a double crochet, and that is the repeat. Okay, so that's all of that. That's your repeat, and you're going to do that another 5 times to come round back up to the beginning. I'll show you one more, and then I'll meet you at the end and show you what you need to do next. So double crochet into there, into that chain 2 space, chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch into the first, and then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a slip stitch into the first. Then we're going to do our chain 8 picot, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then a slip stitch into the first, and then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a slip stitch into the first, And then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a slip stitch in the first. And then to secure it, we're going to do a double crochet. Make sure you don't bend that and twist it in there, in that chain 2 space, and that's your next point of your snowflake made. And then to finish the repeat, being mindful that one might be hidden, we're going to do a double crochet in there, double crochet in there, and then we're going to do a chain 4 followed by 2 more double crochets. Okie dokie, there's 2. So we need to do that 4 more times, and then we're going to come back up here and I'll show you how to join it and then what you need to do next. Okay, so we're at the point where I've made my 6 points of my snowflake and I'm about to do the last little bit of the repeat. So we're doing a double crochet in here, double crochet in the next stitch there on top of that treble, doing a double crochet, sorry, we're doing our chain 4, forget the chain 4, and then if you look back at the start here, the start of the round was a double crochet in that one and it was a chain 1 there, so you just need to go into that chain 1 to make your slip stitch, and that is your snowflake complete. So now what you need to do is trim off, fasten off, sorry. So you just need to cut your yarn and then just thread. If you just put your hook back in and do a chain 1 and pull all the way through and pull really tight. So that is your finished snowflake. What you're going to want to do next is weave in the ends. So I suggest with a magic ring that you weave in really well and back on yourself, because sometimes they have a habit of, well, threading needles, always a fun job. So magic rings have a habit of undoing, so give it a nice, pull it really tight. We love a magic ring, but you don't want it to come undone. And then you just want to go through a load of those stitches as far around as you want to. Give yourself a good bit of weaving in. And then you're going to want to go back on yourself. So I've done it this way, so you're then going to want to go back on yourself a little bit. Loop it over that last bit. And make sure it's really, really secure, because you do not want your snowflakes unraveling themselves. And then you can just snip that off. And then the one that's here, it's just a case of weaving that in best you can and hiding it. When I weave in ends, I like to try and go and find kind of a dense bit of stitching that I can hide it behind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down the back of this treble and probably tuck it round there. So you can just go in through there, in through there. Don't pull it too tight. You want it to be secure, but you don't want to buckle or cause any kind of misshaping of that point. Not part of the crochet where that end comes from. So you just want to kind of just pull it tight, but then just even it back out again. So if you pull it too tight, it does that. So you just want to then do a bit of that, and then you can trim off. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is starch it. These are exactly the same snowflake, same pattern, same wool, same gauge wool, same hook. So you want to make sure that you block it. Now, you know, this looks lovely. It's a snowflake, but when you block it, you really make the most of being able to see all those stitches, and you can make it look really symmetrical. You'll notice here that these bits are quite round, but when I starched it, I put pins at the top and spread it out slightly, and that gave us this nice triangle here. Now, to block, oh, and this is another example actually. So this is an unblocked one of a different pattern. That's a blocked one. In fact, that's a blocked one that's been hanging around on my desk for a bit and could probably do with a little reblocking, but still really holding its shape much. I mean, this obviously clearly needs some blocking love. So the way you block is you want to get yourself a foam mat. You want to get yourself some non-rusting pins, and then you want to pin out your snowflake. When you pin out your snowflake, you want to make it look as symmetrical as possible. So I tend to do my points opposite each other along those 3 diagonals. And then I decide how I want to spread the point out, or if there's any bits of the pattern that I want to make, that I want to accentuate. So without these 2, and just by stretching that, it takes on that shape. But I wanted to be able to see these a bit more. So I simply pop a pin in there, pop a pin in there, and pull it out, and then just turn it round and make sure it's looking symmetrical and you're happy with it. Okay, and then what you want to do is get some spray starch, and you're going to saturate it. You're going to spray it in spray starch till it's soaking wet, and you're going to leave it to dry for 24 hours. When you then take the pins out, it's not going to shift, it's going to hold its form, and then you can either crochet a hanging loop if you wanted to. So with these ones, once you'd made it and starched it, if you wanted to, you could rejoin your yarn in a point, and then crochet yourself a little hanging loop, or you could put on it a ribbon or some twine, whatever you wanted to do. If you were attaching them to a wreath, you would sew them on. You know, the possibilities are endless, and you can do with these as you wish. Anyway, I hope that's been helpful. Hope you've enjoyed this snowflake tutorial. Any questions, please feel free to pop me a message, or find me on my Woolly Lamb Crochet business page on Facebook or Instagram, and I'll be very happy to help you with any of your questions. Many thanks for joining.